Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mystery Red Reads. I am your host, Mystery Red, and this is my disclaimer. This beta read in concrete is at the author's request. This video is for learning purposes. Today we're looking at a piece of original fiction. We are looking at No Name Shattered by Dontrike, and we are kind of in chapter 1. I am now reading for 30-minute increments in order to balance my home life. And so with that, I have a playlist for Dontrike, so if you want to go back, you can start from the beginning of the story and follow along. Otherwise, we're just going to dive right in. And where we left off was we're in chapter 1, but it is in parts. I can scroll back because that pink marks my spot where I left off. It's kind of broken into sections where you have like chapter 1, and then see, this says 1, 2. So I guess it's like part 2 of chapter 1. Is kind of how I'm interpreting that. Dontrike can correct me if it's not right. Just throw a comment up there. But see, it says chapter 1. So we're 777 years into the moon roof. The moon gets a sunroof. And then it starts with part 1 of... Well, it starts part 1 of 1. And then now we're in part 2 of chapter 1. And now I have actually made it all the way down. And we are actually having to do our video in parts. So now we are going to be on part B of part 2 of chapter 1, so it's a little bit complicated there, but you can always the videos will be consecutive, and I'll label them part A, part B of what chapter. So with that, we're just going to dive right back in here. I'm going to take my highlight off so that I know this is where I left off, and we're going to get started. We are going to go back one paragraph to kind of help us get a little bit of context. With a nod, Fi stood as still as she could as the guard brought the 2 orbs to her eyes. Fi did her best to keep her eyes open as they twitched. An immediate cooling sensation calmed the irritation when the liquid spheres touched her eyes. The seraph gently pulled the orbs away. He let the spheres fall to the ground as his halo dimmed. I'm not going to go over the revisions that I suggested for that paragraph, as we've already done it, and it's in the last video. We're just going to keep going. With a series of blinks, why is this... Okay, I need to remove the mark for the highlight. I was like, why is it still in a green bracket? All right. With a series of blinks and a wipe of her eyes, she could see once again. That feels bleep great. Thank you so much, Fi said, looking around at those that assisted her. I doubt I could have gotten out of these woods if it wasn't for... She saw the queen standing nearby. Her face turned red from embarrassment. Okay, I do have a slight suggestion. This is a little bitty. It's nothing big. Very small. When I'm reading this, I doubt I could have gotten out of these woods if it wasn't for... She noticed the queen standing nearby, her face reddening with embarrassment. Or what I'm trying to suggest and what I'm toying with is making this active. Her face turned red from embarrassment. I think I just wanted to suggest that because it would feel closer to like it's playing out right in front of you. Yes, we're working in past tense, but at the same time, you want to as immersed and as close as you can possibly get so that your reader forgets their reading and gets caught up in the story. And I feel like if this was active, I'm going to envision a sudden red. She notices the queen and then her face turning red. So I'm just going to say musings in video, but basically I'm suggesting you make this active and making it turning red with embarrassment, or turning red from embarrassment is still fine. I'm just suggesting primarily that this be turning, and I'm going to say musings in video. There we go. Okay. Also, when I'm tempted to read cuss words. I guess I should continue not to, so I don't end up getting myself flagged. But lately I've been watching YouTube videos and people are just outright cussing. It's so interesting to me what they bleep out versus what they actually say. Anyway, we're going to keep going. I doubt I could have gotten out of these woods if it wasn't for... She noticed the queen standing nearby, her face reddening with embarrassment. Oh, bleep. I mean, geez, Queen Alana, I'm so sorry. She bowed quickly and repeatedly. Okay, so she's bowing quickly and repeatedly. I'm not a fan of adverbs, but at the same time, I can see her kind of scrambling. I'm wondering if you could, in lieu of having quickly and repeatedly, have her show her, you've already had her cheeks reddening, and you could have her kind of like scrambling better. You have Basically, when you see an adverb, first ask yourself, sometimes you're using it to be specific and it's needed, okay? And you can't think of another way to be more specific. But primarily, it's a flag to you that could you use a stronger verb. In this case, scrambling would have been as effective to me as quickly and repeatedly, okay? It's going to show the urgency, and I'm just going to say no, I'm using the video, and we're just going to move on. All right. I didn't know you were there. Had I known, I wouldn't have said bleep, bleep, and I did it. I swore in front of you. Alana smiled at the nervous nature of the young white-haired woman. Now, okay, so you and I've been commenting in the past how when you introduce a character, giving a play-by-play breakdown of what they look like and how they're dressed. This is exactly what I want you to do. Alana smiled at the nervous nature of the young white-haired woman. You added a description of Phi. You moved it right into this character, Alana, viewing Phi. And so that is a beautiful, perfect example of how we just kind of casually work in a detail that Alana noticed. It's not overplaying. It's not an info dump. But it's nice and subtly played into something naturally happening. You look over, you see this jittery, fidgeting little person who's scrambling around, just tripping over themselves. And really quick, brief description, white-haired woman. Okay, perfect. That is quite all right. Unable to get in a word edgewise suggestion there. Edgewise. Alana reached, am I suggesting? I did not mean to make, nope, I need to move to suggesting. Sorry about that. I kind of don't want to be responsible for changes in your document. I don't want to do that. So what does it do if I click it there? Okay. Alana reached out for the young woman as she came up from yet another bow, putting a finger on her lips, stopping the continued apologies. Okay. Here, I'm going to say you can pare it down. You have 2 commas, you have 3 actions, and it seems a little bit repetitive, a little bit redundant. Alana reached out for the young woman as she came up from yet another bow, putting a finger to her lips. Or I would I think, omit this. That's what I think right there. Let's see. You have no reason to apologize. I have heard much worse. Now, I must ask for your assistance, Alana requested, moving her finger away from Phi's mouth. I need you to tell us what you might have seen this night. First, please tell us your name. Yes, Your Majesty. My name is Phi. Phi works. My night started by testing out my orders. Orders? Monte asked, squinting with one eye. Squinting one eye? Squinting? I don't know. I'm thinking squinting one eye. Okay, anyway, we're going to keep going. I make fireworks. Phi's fireworks. You can't have a celebration without fireworks, and you can't say fireworks without Phi, she said with a salesman's confidence. Ah, so you are the one we hired, Alana remembered. My head of the house mentioned we needed to change vendors, something to do with their shipment being a pre-celebration issue. Something like that, yes, ma'am. I heard it was a seraph screwing around near the supply. Thank you so much for picking me. I am grateful for the opportunity. Phi bowed once more. I wish I could take the credit. I would not have noticed your name had it not been for your slogan. Now, back to more pressing matters. You were testing your fireworks, and what happened next? One of my rockets, blank near Phi cleared her throat. Got away and almost went into town. Luckily it didn't, she laughed. When seeing no one else had found it as humorous, she continued, anyways, I saw the moon practically blow up. She pointed to the damaged orb in the sky. And then fireballs came raining down. One of those blank things near took my head off. It practically threw me off the ground when it landed. I thought I died. So you didn't see it land directly? Monte asked. Bleep, no. No. I was running for my life, but when the shaking stopped. Wait, okay. Then the shaking stopped? Okay. Bleep, no. Nope. I was running for my life, but when the shaking stopped, and period. Okay, so then, when I'm reading this, but when the shaking stopped, period, this seems to me like I'm getting ready to find out something happened after the shaking stopped, but the sentence ends, and so it feels incomplete. But what I think it is meant is that you're actually meant to have, but then the shaking stopped. So I'm going to read it that way, and I'm just going to put a note on it. Okay. I'm just going to say then and in question mark. That's what we're going to go with. Okay. Bleep, no. I mean, no. I was running for my life, but then the shaking stopped. I made my way through the woods and found Fi stopped, thinking back to the man she had seen. Okay, so we have an echo on stopped. What color had we picked for our echoes? I think it might have been yellow. Yep, it looks like it might have been yellow. We're going to try to be consistent. We're going to go with yellow. There we go. And you can figure out what to do with your word echoes. Found what? Alana questioned. The hesitant pause in her description was strange for someone that so far had been rather talkative. Fi looked at her and the other soldiers. Okay, pausing. I feel like we're flip-flopping between Alana and Fi's point of view, and I just want to note that. I don't know if I noted that in the last part that I had read, but we've kind of got, and I'm able to follow it, okay? I'm okay with it, and I'm able to follow it. But I've had lots of talks about point of view switches and how I've been absolutely lashed for doing them. And I have them, especially in my role play, which is for fun. So I feel like it's fine. I can do whatever I want when I'm writing for fun. It's just for the practice of writing. But when I'm writing professionally, I try to stay within the parameters so that I'm not getting lashed on something to me that is, if I've done it well, okay, if I've done a point of view switch and I've done it well and my reader can follow, which I can follow this, okay, I know this is Alana, I know that is Fi, and I can accept it, all right, because I'm willing to. So that is the bottom line. Is your reader willing to accept head hopping? Okay, because I am, but some people are not, and I just want to make you aware of it for that reason. It's more of a protection towards you by making you aware proactively in case you need to make some difficult decisions. So we're going to note that, and let's see. I'm going to start here again, but I want to say notes in video. I feel like I've already probably acknowledged it earlier, but I'm definitely noticing it heavily back and forth here, probably going back a little bit further. I could follow it. And like I said, I'm okay with it. I'm going to note that I observed it, and I just have that disclaimer that I am okay with it. I am able to tell who it is so far. If I wasn't, I'm also going to pose to you, I'm not sure who is speaking here or whose thoughts or whose headspace we're in, because it will work for me as long as I am comfortable and settled in with who it is that I'm following. Now, one of the reasons they tell you not to do it is because you're trying to get your reader as close as you can connected with the main character or the character whose point of view that you are in. And when you head hop, it pulls the reader away from the other character, okay? And it can be considered a distraction because they have to be focused on whose head am I in now? Whose head am I in now? And so that's considered a distraction. We want to reduce all of those as much as possible so that our reader is as close to our story as they can be. So that is more food for thought in making those decisions. Let's see. Found what? Alana questioned. The hesitant pause in her description was strange for someone that so far had been rather talkative. Fi looked at her and the other soldiers. Okay, so here's the thing. Fi looked at her and then Fi was unsure. So you've literally got an echo on Fi's name. What you could do is omit that. Fi looked at her and the other soldiers, unsure whether she should tell them about the man, thinking none would believe it. Now, I don't know what your word count is, so I don't know if you're looking to gain words or looking to trim words, or if you're just fine and not worried about your word count so much as if it needs to be trimmed, trim it. So sometimes that comes in a factor when you're trying to decide what to keep and what to let go of. I think it read better without that. Miss, if you have any information, we need to know, Monty warned. Did you see anything? Was there someone here? A creature, perhaps? If there was, it might be a threat to the kingdom, and if you hide that information, we would need to take you for interrogation to make sure you're not connected to this incident. Captain, that will not be necessary. I am sure Miss Works is not colluding with some force of evil beyond the stars. Alana calmed her captain, glancing to her right. He is correct, though, Miss Works. We need all the information you can give us. Alana stared down into the young seraph's eyes, her height and imposing presence. See, beautifully done there. See, I love how you worked your description in nicely right there. I almost thought this was an opportunity to put in what the seraph's eyes looked like, but you managed to slip in her height imposing. So I'm getting that Alana's height is imposing. Okay, very nice. All right. So she's using that right now to kind of intimidate her, but with less force than her little captain guy there. Vi stumbled over her words, looking down. Yes, ma'am. I saw a man. Monty turned to the soldiers. Start looking. He may be out in the woods. And he's not here anymore, Vi timidly said. Okay, so in lieu of saying timidly said, you have Vi murmured, Vi whispered, Vi, she could be looking at the ground. Vi looked to the ground. He's not here anymore. She could look down to the ground and peer up with her eyes. He's not here anymore. You can give her an action. You can use her body language to show her tone, or you can use a different word that does the work. In lieu of saying timidly, use a word that shows that she's speaking and in what tone she's using, all in one word. There's just a better word. So I want you to look for a stronger verb. Let's see. There are some little lists on Pinterest that you can quickly search for and do writing instead of said. Okay, and it'll pop up with a bunch of pin options for you with lists of different words that you can use instead of said. So if you want a quick reference sheet, which I have, when I first started writing emotions, feelings, and descriptions and that kind of thing, emotional amplifiers and such, I would have reference sheets quickly where I don't have to sit here and agonize over it, and I can quickly look and find what it is I'm wanting without having to sit here and try to rack my brain every single time. Let's see. Notes in video. All right, we're going to keep going. Monty turned in surprise. What do you mean? Is he dead? No, Vi sighed, trying to make sense of this as she was still trying to understand. I heard groans from that large rock near the crash, the one with the crack in it. Yes, we did indeed see it, Alana confirmed. I called out to him and only heard groaning. That's when the wind sent all of that she dust into my eyes and I bumped into something and fell. It wasn't the rock, it was a man. What did this man look like? Questioned Manti. I don't know. He helped me up. The only thing I could make out was a dark line on the back of his right hand, and maybe that he was fairly tall, but not as tall as you, Your Highness. Suddenly he took off running in that direction. Vi pointed in the opposite path. I would maybe suggest path because we have an adverb there, or we have not adverb. We have a echo. I was going to compliment your use of another adverb. Typically, we use adverbs in real life when we're speaking. So using them in dialogue has always been okay with me. Generally speaking, obviously, we don't want to be heavy on it, and we don't want to have like an echo of an adverb. That's not what you've done here. I was just pointing out that this use of suddenly was completely acceptable. Vi pointed in the opposite direction she had been walking. I would suggest the opposite path she had been on. I tried to tell him it was all right, but he was already out of sight by the time I finished my sentence. Alana tilted her head, squinting at the odd description. Okay, so we had to have an echo on an actual physical action here. And because we do, I'm actually going to put this in a different color so it stands out a bit, and that way you can look for the match, because the echo on it is above. And the reason it's up a couple paragraphs, and I'm going to go back and find it and point it out to you, because you don't want to use the same unique body language or action in close proximity. Typically, when I think close proximity, I think of like a chapter, okay? And at the very least on the same page, all right? You don't want to do it twice because it's going to be noticed by your reader that you've got some repetition going on. So you're going to need to pick a different action here, but I'm going to scroll back and try to find it. It was, I think, Manti who squinted. Yes, all right, it's right here. And I'm going to say notes below on this one so that when you come across it, you're not like, well, what does that go to? Notes, like notes in video, look for orange, highlight below. I kind of don't want to just leave you scrolling all over the place going, what is this? What is this for? There's no note here. Okay, let me get back to my spot. All right, you say he was gone in seconds. Was he an angel? All right, so I'm guessing this is Alana speaking. If it is, then I suggest moving her dialogue up here by her line so that I know it's her, because as it is, it's kind of alienated down here and I don't know where it goes. Yes and no, sir. Oh, wait, so that was Manti. And now I'm thinking that was Manti. All right, so you see my dilemma there. I'm going to delete that because that suggestion changes, because when she says no, sir, I'm thinking that's Phi, and I'm thinking this is Manti because he is the male and Alana was the queen who's female. So I'm going to say, oh, I do not want that. Oh my goodness. Okay. I need a dialogue tag because there are multiple speakers in this scene. There we go. Keep going. Yes and no, sir. I couldn't see much, but I can say he didn't have wings. He easily stood out among the trees until he went too far. When I realized it was in the middle of all this, she gestured to the surrounding area. I think there might be a comma there. And considering my line of work, I thought it best to leave. It would be pretty easy to be blamed for this. You are not a suspect here. Many in the country saw it. You could not have caused this. Alana glanced up at the moon, the damage of the planet's satellite showing through the white of the pines as a mysterious smell of ash filled her nose. Before we can let you go, miss, we must know what your element is, and we require you show us. 2. It suggests 2, and I think that's fine. I think it's also fine the way it is, but it suggested it, and I think it, I don't know. Personally, I think the 2 would make it flow a little bit better, but I've also been stingy with my little my little words that connect, my connecting words. Sorry. Yeah, you're my first read for today. Can you tell I have to warm my brain and my mouth up? Anyway, sometimes I'm stingy with them and I won't use them, so I think this is a personal opinion on this, honestly. It recommended it. I was inclined to think it too, so I'd go ahead with recommendation. We're going to move on. Monty spoke, pointing to her halo. Phi looked around the woods. I better not show you here. My element is fire, sir. Why can't you show us? Monty asked. Well, it's fine, Captain, Alana informed. I understand you cannot sense magic, but she is telling the truth. My apologies, my queen, but I am only following protocol. The council requires I do so. I am well aware of the council's rules. Remember, I am at fault for many being written. We have taken enough of her time, and considering that she has gone through this night, what she has gone through this night, it is best we do not keep her. Guards, Alana looked to the 2 that initially found her. Please escort Miss Works back to town. At once, my queen, the 2 responded with a salute. Miss Works, if you think of any other information, do not hesitate to come to Captain Manti. I look forward to what you have in store for us at the Remembrance. Alana looked Phi up and down. Don't you worry about that, Your Majesty. It's going to be a blast. Thank you, Phi bowed before it being escorted by the soldiers. Alana turned away, walking in the opposite direction. Okay, if she turned away, that would be in the opposite direction. So that's implied, and this is redundant. So we're just going to mark it out. Monty and the Seraphs followed. Silence filled the night air as they walked back to the cracked boulder. Alana gazed at the rock, looking back up at the moon briefly before looking at the meteor's path. So we've got kind of an echo on look. Let's go there and highlight that. Okay. Reaching out, she placed her hand on it. The surface was cool and coarse to the touch. Slowly, she walked around, gliding her fingers across its surface, inspecting it. Okay, so I'm going to say you didn't have to tell me she was inspecting it, because as she's kind of gliding her fingers over it, I kind of get that she's taking in the scene, okay? That I have this sense, and I'm going to show you where you planted it for me, that she is kind of being a detective in this moment. She's surveying the lay of the land here. She's investigating. And you didn't have to be heavy with it, and you did a great job not being heavy with it, and I'm going to show you how I still got that reaction. Alana turned away, Monty and the Seraphs following. Silence filled the night air as they walked back to the cracked boulder. All right, so she's revisiting the scene. She's walked back there. If she's already been there and she's walking back, then I'm going to get that she's going back to look around. All right, so I'm deriving that. Alana gazed at the rock. This confirms what I have already gotten. looking back up at the moon briefly before looking at the meteor's path. Okay, even though we kind of need to fix our little echo there, I'm still getting the same thing. She's taking in the pieces here. She's piecing this together. Reaching out, she placed her hand on it. The surface was cool and coarse to the touch. Slowly, she walked around, gliding her fingers across its surface. Returning to the crack once more, she knocked on it twice. Seems normal, she remarked. I shall call for an earth seraph. By the way, I'm just going to note that we're in her headspace, I'm guessing, from this paragraph. We don't have any of her internal thoughts. So we don't know what she's thinking as she's doing these things. And if you, my author, do know, you might tuck a few here or there. Now, if you're trying not to give anything away, you don't have to say, you can choose a vague internal thought that will still give us an internal thought of her headspace. Like, I don't know what she's thinking about this. In the end, she's saying it seems normal. But at the same time, as a reader, I'm wondering if that's what she really feels. I'm wondering what she really thinks. I shall call for an earth seraph to look at it when we return, my queen, Captain Manty says. I doubt that will be necessary, but we cannot rule anything out. Alana kneeled down, looking at where the boulder met the ground. Bring your light down here, please. Yes, ma'am, the seraph responded, bringing the globe closer, revealing even more cracks at the bottom of the large stone. Monty bent over to look at what his queen had found. Monty, I must apologize to you, Alana said. What do you mean, Your Majesty? It seems your theory of a creature may not be too far off, Alana explained as she looked at the cracks. There's blood here. Monty's eyes widened. Okay, I'm going to suggest you omit in surprise. It's telling, and you've already shown it with his eyes widening. Monty's eyes widened. You're saying there could be something attacking us with meteors? I know I may have jumped to conclusions before, Your Majesty, but isn't that far-fetched? It's unlikely to be a creature. The man Miss Works described may very well have come from the meteor. Oh my goodness. The man Miss Works described may very well have come from the meteor, Alana deduced. And as far-fetched as that may sound, tonight the kingdom experienced it. The two seraphs looked at each other, worry filling their faces as they heard all of it. Alana rolled the blood on her fingers, spreading the red fluid thin. Color and viscosity are normal, she murmured, staring at it. Surviving something like this is astonishing. She looked back and forth between the rock and the blood. Who could this be? What could they want? How did they do that to the moon? Where are they from? How did they survive? The more she thought, the more she caught hints of ash. She closed her eyes, her halo hummed, sensing traces of magic. She felt the slight presence of Phi and that of the water and light seraphs, but she felt nothing. Puzzling her. Something like this should leave a trace, she silently hypothesized. Okay, if she's being silent, you've got her in dialogue. So if it's just an internal thought, take off your quotation marks and I'll have it as an internal thought, and you can actually omit the quotation marks and all of this. Now, if she does murmur it, just have her murmur it. But either way, she's not being silent. If we have it in quotation marks, she's speaking. So that's not going to work. I'm just going to say musings on this line in video. But you have a couple options. Seraphs, Alana spoke. Okay. Am I wrong not to sense any strange magic in the immediate area? No, my queen. Since Miss Works departed, I have sensed no magic but yours and our own. The large water seraph spoke. This feels like an afterthought, but I get it. It's him. He's speaking, but is he happen to do anything? Is he investigating the area? Is he looking around? I wonder what his body language is. I'm just wondering if we have something else we could use. But it works. It works. It just felt like an afterthought. Neither have I, Your Majesty, the light seraph agreed. This makes even less sense. Alana stood, befuddled by the evidence in front of her, as she looked at the moon. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to put this on silent. I've got a minute left on this read. Neither have I, Your Majesty, the light seraph agreed. This makes even less sense. Alana stood, befuddled by the evidence in front of her, as she looked at the moon. What would you have us do, my queen? Monty asked, standing straight. Alana contemplated before answering. For now, keep this information secret. The captain and seraphs instantly gasped. How about this? The captain and seraphs gasped in unison. I know, but we do not know enough yet. And if word got out, citizens would jump to conclusions and about monsters attacking from the stars and panic. I will make an official announcement to the kingdom about a fifth secret. When we know more, I will release said information. If anyone asks, tell them this was nothing more than the randomness of nature. This is an order. Yes, my queen, Monty and the seraph saluted. What of the moon? He asked, still at attention. Alana rubbed her temple. The logistics of that are much too daunting. I still need to inspect it, and Charlotte needs to be sober enough, she said, ending with a groan of irritation at the mention of the princess. Oh my gosh. Okay, that was my timer. I'm going to read for just a minute more here, see if I can find a good spot to stop on. Let's see. All right, I looked ahead a little bit. I'm going to read to the end of the page. Very well, Alana agreed, knowing he was more than capable. I will search above the forest and look over the surrounding area. Return to me as soon as possible to give your report. Yes, my queen, Monty saluted, watching his queen ascend with a beat of her wings. Within moments, she was out of sight. Soldiers, gather up. Alana heard Monty's orders one last time before getting out of earshot. The wispy woods passed underneath as she flew, thoughts flooding her mind. She looked for anything out of the ordinary. The moon damaged and a mystery man, she thought. Okay, so you're telling me her thoughts in quotation marks. I would suggest having her direct internal thoughts without quotation marks, because it's very, and then you don't have to have that she thought it. You don't need a dialogue tag for it unless she's musing to herself out loud. And we talked about that at that other sentence. So I'm just going to make that suggestion right here, and we're going to read it on through. The moon damaged and a mystery man. The smell of ash filled her nose once more, taking her focus away, causing her to stop and look in all directions at the horizon. No fire has spread. So then why does it smell as though one is nearby? What seems to be the problem? The sound of a child resonated in her mind. It's not like you to be this flustered. You know full well why, Reese, her head filled with her own irritated voice. The absurdity of this is astounding. What can you tell me? Me? Nothing. The voice chuckled like it was keeping a secret. Fine. Okay, so we kind of have we have an echo here. What I would suggest is on this line, allude to a secret without saying secret, and then she can say, fine, keep your secrets. The voice chuckled. When it chuckles, I kind of feel like that implies mischief. Chuckling to me can imply mischief, and in the way that it's said, so you may not need any of this. Me? Nothing, the voice chuckled. Fine, keep your secrets. I have no need for your toying right now. I have much larger issues to worry about, Alana commanded out of anger. So, I have not looked deeply into this, but I am wondering it. I've been told, be careful how frequently I do it, but I've not been told not to do it. You could choose to look into it, but I'm going to tell you what it is. Fine, keep your secrets, Alana commanded out of anger. I have no need for your toying right now. I have much larger issues to worry about. Okay, so all I did was tuck the dialogue tag kind of in there in between the rest of her dialogue to kind of give her, instead of it, sometimes to me, dialogue tags feel like an afterthought. They feel extra or feel like an afterthought. And that could just be how far I've gone with all the things that I've learned. And I don't do it every time. Sometimes they don't feel that way. Me, nothing, the voice chuckled, all right? But sometimes when you have a really long sentence or a longer sentence, I feel like to break it up a little bit, because when you're talking to someone, you do move. You look around, you breathe, you wiggle. There are things that you do. And so if all of a sudden you're doing those things at the end of your dialogue, it feels to me like extra. Rather, if you work it in between the dialogue, sometimes it feels more natural with the flow of it. And that's kind of how I decide whether or not to do that. Right here, I kind of am inclined to take this opportunity to kind of move this text up here. So, fine, keep your secrets, and then have quotation marks. Alana commanded. I kind of feel like this is also telling, this is showing. And if you don't like what it says, use a different word. Alana snarled. And a queen can get mad. She can snarl. Okay? So let's just think about this. Let's try it. You can always undo my little suggestion. No big deal. if you don't like it. And let's just see what happens when I read it this way. Fine, keep your secrets. Alana, it took off my other suggestions when I did that. And I'm just going to suggest Alana snarled. Or you can use whatever you want. I'm just making a suggestion that you could use a tone of voice. And she's not commanding. She's not going to command her to keep her secrets. She's mad at her because she's frustrated that she won't tell her what she knows. All right. So she's not actually commanding it. And that's why I'm inclined to suggest a different tone of voice. Fine, keep your secrets, Alana snarled. I have no need for your toying right now. I have much larger issues to worry about. Don't be like that. I can't know everything there is, but I find it flattering you would think so. By the way, I saw you staring at a couple of them. Does my Alana have a crush on either of the Seraphs? Reese teased. Alana blushed. I did no such thing. They're my subjects. I cannot think of them in such a manner. She shot back. I would omit the nervously. Leave me be. I have work to do. I'm going to pause right here. In this little context, in this little dialogue, I had no clue that Alana had noticed anyone extra, okay? Because I didn't have any internal thoughts that implied that she did. So I'm going to say musings and oh, I do not want to do that. That is not what I want at all. I'm going to highlight this and go, there we go. Musings and video, and basically my musings are, I had no inclination. This is kind of like a surprise and afterthought or news to me, okay? And the reason is we didn't have any internal thoughts from Alana about noticing that someone was beautiful or cute or handsome or charming or anything endearing that would imply that they might have been interested in another character. I'm assuming that the person that Reese is noticing might be Fi, but I'm not sure. And if it is, you might want to tuck some little clues in there so that this is not such a surprise afterwards. Instead, you can be like, ooh, busted. You know, you kind of want that reader reaction, unless the reaction I'm having is the one you wanted, which I'm inclined to think that I should have had some kind of warm up to that, unless Reese is completely off kilter, okay, out of left field. And on that note, I'm going to pause right here and highlight this so that I know where I left off. And I will try to be back as soon as I can to do another 30-minute read for you. Until then, or until next time, thank you guys for watching Mystery Red Reads.